Nowhere fast. Malik sat on the porch, arms crossed, staring at the shiny black and blue bike propped up against the steps. His mom was standing next to it, smiling like she had just handed him keys to a Mercedes. "Happy birthday, baby," she said, her voice warm. He forced a nod. "Thanks, Ma." She clapped her hands together. "I know it's not what you wanted, but you've been talking about needing to get around more, and gas is too high for you to be running me and my tank ragged." He chuckled, shaking his head. This wasn't even close to what he wanted. A car? Nah. Even an old beater would have been better than this, but he wasn't about to make her feel bad about it. She had done the best she could. "You like it?" His little sister, Maya, chirped from the doorway, grinning. He sighed, grabbing the handlebars and rolling the bike forward. "Yeah, it's cool." His mom raised an eyebrow. "Malik, don't start. You could at least fake some excitement." "I am excited," he lied. Maya snickered. "You lying." His mom swatted Maya lightly on the back of the head. "Leave your brother alone. Malik, go ride it. Take it around the block." He sighed and nodded. "Yeah, all right." With that, he hopped on and rode down the street, not because he wanted to, but because he didn't want to seem ungrateful. Going nowhere fast. Malik rode through his neighborhood, his mind buzzing. The past year had been a blur of everyone else figuring things out, except him. Jaden, off to Howard in a few months. Imani, getting ready for college, too. Rico, making quick money that Malik didn't even want to ask about. And then there was him. A bike for his 17th birthday? Nothing about this summer felt like forward motion. As he turned the corner, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He stopped at the curb and pulled it out. "Jaden? Yo, you home? I'm pulling up in 10. Malik smirked, typing back. Malik, "I'm outside." Jaden, between. A few minutes later, Jaden's dad's old Honda rolled up, and Jaden hopped out, grinning like he had just hit the lottery. "What's good, man?" Jaden dapped him up. Malik nodded toward the car. "You practicing for when you get to DC? Rolling up on people like a politician?" Jaden chuckled. "Something like that." He gestured at the bike. "Damn, that's fresh. Ain't what you wanted though, huh?" Malik shook his head. "Not even close." Jaden laughed, then got serious. "You all right though?" Malik hesitated. He could say yeah. He could make a joke. But instead, he sighed. "I feel like everybody's moving but me." Jaden leaned against the car, nodding. "I get it. But you got time, man. You ain't gotta know everything right now." Malik scoffed. "Easy for you to say. You got a plan." Jaden exhaled. "Yeah, I do. But that don't mean it was easy figuring it out. You just gotta start somewhere." Malik glanced down at the bike. He just wasn't sure where to start. Rico's offer. Later that night, Malik sat on his front steps, tossing a basketball between his hands when Rico pulled up on his dirt bike. "What's good, man?" Rico called out, kicking the stand down. Malik shrugged. "Chillin'." Rico eyed the new bike leaning against the porch. "That yours?" "Yeah." Rico smirked. "Damn, you really the only one still riding on two wheels." Malik rolled his eyes. "Shut up, man." Rico leaned against the handlebars. "Yo, listen, I got a little move lined up. Something quick, easy. You down?" Malik hesitated. He knew what that meant. "Depends," he said slowly. Rico smirked. "Nah, it don't." Malik exhaled, tossing the basketball up again. "I'll think about it." Rico nodded. "Think quick." Then he revved up his bike and peeled off down the street. Malik sat there for a long time, thinking. The ride that changes everything. After a restless night, Malik woke up early and grabbed his bike. If he was going nowhere fast, he might as well go somewhere. He rode through the neighborhood, past the corner store, past the park where kids were already hooping, just moving. He rode until he saw a sign he had never noticed before. Community Co-op Market, fresh produce, open to all. Curious, he rolled up and hopped off his bike. Inside the gates, people were picking fruits and vegetables off vines, filling baskets. A woman behind the stall smiled at him. First time here? Yeah, Malik said, looking around. I ain't even know this was here. She nodded toward a small tree. Go ahead, grab a peach. He did, biting into it. It was different, sweeter, fresher, real. Damn, he muttered, wiping the juice off his chin. She laughed. Different from the grocery store, huh? Malik nodded. Way different. As he stood there, eating a peach in the middle of a farm he never knew existed, something clicked. Maybe he had been stuck because he had never really seen what was around him. Maybe there was more to his world than he had ever paid attention to. Maybe he just needed to keep riding. Malik had spent the past few days doing something he hadn't done in years, riding his bike just to ride, not to school, not to the store, not because his mom sent him somewhere, just riding. And with every turn, he noticed things he had never paid attention to before. The mural on the side of an old building, colors so bright they almost looked alive. The abandoned laundromat on 3rd Street that was suddenly filled with workers, remodeling it into something new. A side street he never took before, where he found a row of small businesses tucked between houses. Maybe it wasn't that he was stuck. Maybe he had just never really looked around. The first person he met was Mr. Curtis. Malik had been riding in the heat all morning and stopped outside a barber shop to catch some shade. Yo, you thirsty? A voice called. Malik turned to see an older dude in a work uniform, sipping a bottle of water. Yeah, a little, Malik admitted. Mr. Curtis tossed him a cold water from his cooler. Been out here for a minute. What you up to? Malik shrugged. Just riding. Mr. Curtis nodded. That's good. You see a lot more that way. Malik took a sip. You work here? Nah, I do HVAC. Just fix their AC. Malik blinked. Wait, that's a whole job? Just fixing ACs? Mr. Curtis chuckled. Man, what? You know how much people pay to keep from melting in this heat? Malik thought about how their own AC broke last summer, and his mom nearly lost her mind. Damn, Malik muttered. I never thought about that. Mr. Curtis smirked. Ain't too late to start. More random stops, more random people. A guy who did landscaping, turning empty lots into real gardens. A woman who owned a food truck, working for herself instead of under a boss. A dude who restored old bikes and sold them for double what he paid. And each one of them had a story, had a skill that turned into a career, had a life that didn't involve being stuck. Malik wasn't sure what that meant for him yet, but for the first time, he felt like he had choices. Malik pulled up to Imani's house, still sweaty from riding all afternoon. She was sitting on the porch, laptop open, probably working on another college application. You really just be riding around now, huh? She teased. Malik smirked. It's better than sitting at home thinking about how I'm going nowhere. Imani closed her laptop, resting her chin on her palm. And you still feel stuck? Malik leaned his bike against the porch railing. Honestly, I don't know. Imani raised an eyebrow. But? Malik sighed. I've been meeting people, just random folks, but they're doing real stuff, not stuck. HVAC, landscaping, food trucks, all kinds of things I never even thought about. It's wild. Imani smiled. Sounds like you're figuring things out. I don't know about all that, Malik muttered. Imani tilted her head. You gonna act like this isn't progress? Malik shrugged. I never had a plan like you. Or Jaden? Imani sighed, shaking her head. Malik, we all figure it out at different speeds. You ain't gotta know everything right now. Malik hesitated, then admitted something he hadn't said out loud yet. But I don't want to be like Rico. Imani's expression softened. Then you won't be. She said it like it was that simple. Maybe. It was. Malik should have known it was coming. Rico had been getting deeper into his side hustle, and Malik had been keeping his distance, but that didn't mean Rico wasn't watching him. You've been out a lot, Rico said one afternoon when Malik pulled up on his bike. You working somewhere? Malik shook his head. Nah, just moving. Rico nodded slowly. You want to make some quick cash? Just something small. Malik hesitated. This wasn't new. This was how it started. A favor here, a drop-off there. Next thing you know, you were in too deep. Still, Malik didn't say no. And that was the problem. Malik did the favor. It wasn't much, just passing something off. No one got hurt. No one even looked at him twice. But later that night, he felt sick, not physically, just inside, like something wasn't sitting right in his chest. He rode for a long time, trying to clear his head, and ended up back at the community co-op market. Mr. Curtis was there again, wiping sweat off his forehead. You all right, kid? He asked. Malik hesitated. He didn't know this man, but at that moment, he needed to say something to someone. I did something today, Malik said quietly. Something that didn't feel right. Mr. Curtis didn't ask what. He just nodded. That's how you know. Malik frowned. Know what? Mr. Curtis took a sip of his water. That it ain't for you. Malik hadn't talked to Rico since that night, not because he was avoiding him, but because he didn't know what to say. Every time his phone buzzed, he half expected Rico to be hitting him up with another favor. And the worst part? He didn't know if he would say no. That's what had him out riding his bike more than ever. Not to get anywhere, just to clear his head. Jaden was leaving for Howard in 2 days. They met up at the basketball court, the place they had always hooped at since middle school. Jaden wasn't even playing, just sitting on the bench, spinning the ball in his hands. Damn, man, Malik muttered, dropping onto the bench next to him. This shit came fast. Jaden nodded. Yeah, you good though? Malik hesitated. Jaden knew him too well. Finally, he sighed. I did something I ain't proud of. Jaden didn't react, just kept spinning the ball. You gon' do it again? Malik swallowed. I don't think so. Jaden nodded. Then don't trip. Malik scoffed. That easy, huh? Jaden looked over at him. You think I never had a moment like that? Malik blinked. What? Jaden exhaled. Man, you think just 'cause I'm going to Howard, I always had it figured out. I had choices too, some good, some bad. It's what you do next that matters. Malik sat with that for a moment. Then Jaden grinned. Besides, you ain't about that life. Malik chuckled. Damn, just say I'm soft. Jaden laughed, shaking his head. You're smart. That's worse than soft for some people. Malik nodded slowly. Maybe Jaden was right. Malik was riding past the repair shop when it finally clicked. Mr. Curtis, HVAC. He had talked to the man before, but for some reason, he never thought about what he actually did for a living. Now, as he slowed his bike outside the shop, he saw Mr. Curtis bent over a busted AC unit, sweat dripping down his forehead. The sun was brutal. Malik wiped his own forehead just looking at him. You good? Malik called out. Mr. Curtis looked up, squinting against the sun. Man, I ain't never good when it's this hot, but I get paid to fix it. Malik hesitated, then swung his leg off his bike. Need a hand? Mr. Curtis smirked. You know how to fix an AC? Nah, Malik admitted, but I'm strong. That made Mr. Curtis laugh. Aight then, let's see what you got. What Malik didn't expect? HVAC was actually interesting. Mr. Curtis didn't just tell him to hold things and move them around. He explained it, how cooling systems worked, the chemistry behind refrigerants, why insulation mattered, and how airflow could change a whole house, the way technology kept evolving, and why skilled hands would always be needed. This ain't just about fixing air conditioners, Mr. Curtis said. It's about knowing how things work, how energy moves. You like that kind of thing? Malik wiped sweat from his brow. He did. There was something about understanding the mechanics of it, about taking something broken and making it work again. It wasn't just some job, it was a skill. And for the first time in a long time, Malik could actually see himself doing something. By the time they finished, Malik was beat, but he felt good. Mr. Curtis cracked open a water bottle and handed one to Malik. You pick up on things quick, he said. Malik smirked. I try. Mr. Curtis eyed him. You serious about this? Malik hesitated. Was he? Then he nodded. Yeah, he said. I think I am. Mr. Curtis leaned back against the truck. Aight, he said. I'll take you on as an apprentice, but it ain't free. Malik frowned. I gotta pay? Nah, Mr. Curtis chuckled. You gotta invest. Take a percentage of whatever you make and put it toward getting certified, either classes or your exam. Malik nodded slowly. This was real. Mr. Curtis wasn't just giving him something to do. He was handing him a way forward. Malik shook his hand. Bet. And just like that, he had a plan. That night, Malik was on his porch when Rico pulled up. It was late, the streetlights buzzing, the air thick with leftover heat from the day. Rico leaned against his handlebars, watching Malik carefully. Ayo, I got something lined up, he said. Need a solid. Quick money. Malik already knew what that meant. He sighed, shaking his head. Nah, man, I'm good. Rico raised an eyebrow. You good? Malik nodded. Yeah. I didn't feel good about it last time. It ain't me. Rico studied him for a long moment. Then he scoffed, shaking his head with a smirk. I knew you wasn't built for this. Malik smirked back. Yeah, me too. Rico nodded once, then hopped back on his bike. And that was it. No beef, no fight. Just two people who had finally gone separate ways. Later that night, Malik called Imani. She picked up fast. You alive? He laughed. Yeah, just been busy. Imani leaned back in her bed. Busy? Doing what? Malik exhaled. Learning HVAC. Silence. Then, wait, for real? Malik chuckled. Yeah, Mr. Curtis took me on. I'm his apprentice now. Imani grinned. That's dope, Malik. You think? I know, she said. You finally found something that excites you. Malik smiled. She was right. For the first time, he wasn't just moving. He was going somewhere. Malik had been working with Mr. Curtis for a month now. It was hard work, long hours in the heat, lifting heavy equipment, learning how to problem solve instead of just fixing things. But for the first time, he felt like he was doing something real. And his first paycheck? That check was his. He looked down at the crisp bills in his hand. knowing exactly what he wanted to do with it. The bike shop downtown had high-end road bikes, the kind built for distance, built for real movement. He found one in matte black with deep blue accents, sleek, fast, built for long rides. The owner grinned as Malik rolled it to the register. Upgrading, huh? Malik nodded, gripping the handlebars. Yeah, he said. Something like that. He could have saved for a car, could have done what everybody expected. But this was him choosing his own movement. And for the first time, he wasn't going nowhere fast. He was going exactly where he needed to be. Jaden leaves, but they keep in touch. The day Jaden left for Howard, Malik met him at his house early. Jaden's bags were stacked in the trunk, his mom giving him a final hug before wiping her eyes and stepping inside. Jaden turned to Malik. You really out here riding bikes like you training for the Olympics now? Malik smirked. Something like that. Jaden nodded, clapping him on the back. I'm proud of you, man, he said. Real talk. Malik nodded. Same. Keep killing it out there. Jaden grinned. You already know. Before he got in the car, he tossed Malik his Howard hoodie. Hold on to that. You never know. Malik caught it, shaking his head. I ain't going to Howard, man. Jaden shrugged. Not yet. With that, he hopped in the car, rolled the window down, and threw up a peace sign as they pulled off. Malik stood there for a moment holding the hoodie. He didn't know what his future held, but for the first time, he wasn't scared of it. The ride that was different this time. That evening, Malik took his new bike out for a ride. Not to clear his head, not because he was frustrated, but because he wanted to ride. He passed the basketball courts, kids playing, talking smack, just like he used to. He rode past the community co-op market, people grabbing fresh fruit, neighbors talking. Past Mr. Curtis's repair shop, where a new HVAC unit sat outside, waiting to be installed. The city didn't feel like a trap anymore. It felt like his city, his home. And he wasn't stuck in it. He was building in it. Telling his mom and her approval. When Malik got home, his mom was sitting on the couch, finally off her feet. She looked at him, raising an eyebrow. That a new bike? Malik nodded, sitting on the armrest. I bought it, he said, with my first check. His mom's face softened. You serious about this, huh? Malik nodded. Yeah. She studied him for a second, then smiled. Good, she said simply. I'm proud of you, baby. Malik felt a warmth in his chest. She had always wanted him to find something. And now, he had. Final conversation with Imani. The next day, Malik pulled up to Imani's house. She was outside, packing a tote bag full of books. Malik rested his foot on the curb. Damn, you study even when you don't have to? Imani smirked. Some of us actually like learning. Malik scoffed. I like learning. Imani arched an eyebrow. Oh, yeah? What did you learn this summer? Malik thought about that. He had learned that sometimes movement wasn't about knowing exactly where you were going. Sometimes it was just about starting. He had learned that you don't have to escape to grow. You can build where you are. He had learned that he wasn't stuck. He was just figuring it out. Finally, he smirked. I learned I'm good with my hands, he said. And that AC repair is a science. Imani grinned. Now that's a fact. Malik hesitated. Then, I appreciate you, Imani. She looked at him, surprised. Where's that coming from? Malik shrugged. You've been real with me, even when I wasn't real with myself. Imani studied him for a second, then nodded. You're a good dude, Malik, she said. I always knew you'd figure it out. The final ride, but this time it's different. Malik rode through the city, the sun setting behind him. He wasn't escaping anything. He wasn't running from himself. He wasn't trying to figure out what was next, because he already knew. This wasn't nowhere fast. This was exactly where he needed to be. The end.